Hello, my Teaserking family. How is everybody today? Well, I had my interview. It went extremely well. I so that was the second one with the CFO, and the last one will be with the hiring manager, and he's in Europe for a few weeks, so we will hear from him later on. He'll be back June 30th, but everything's really positive, and everything went very well. It was a perfect fit. That's what we like. And I said, that's what I did at Mercedes, everything. Anyway, so that's a good sign. Let's look at our gold. Our gold's getting killed down to 23.41. But last week, that's exactly where it was. So it just went up to 24.40. And the derivatives are coming. So really, they're algorithms. So when the algorithm says sell, it just goes to the next buy point. Well, the buy points are probably at 24.50. So this is a joke. So again, gold's 23.41 and silver's 30.23. However, silver's still over 30 and gold's still in the 23s. Again, these are algorithms that they put in and it just sells. So it's an automatic thing. It's all bullshit. It's all illegal and it's all price fixed. And nowhere does it say there was a problem with gold, that it's being sold because of it didn't hit its number like in stocks. So just to understand that, I don't know why they're still doing derivatives. Do they think we think the dollar's good? Do we think that why buy gold? It doesn't go up. This is not profit taking. This is just simply price fixing by the derivatives, by the algorithm. So as long as you understand that, it's not real. It's not market, right? This is not the market price of gold and silver. Now, at what point does it stop or how do we go? Well, as people want to buy gold and as the central banks are buying it, and as everybody's getting out of the dollar, then more people will jump into gold. And I think we'll always have a little of this until comex is gone once they run out of gold. But we know what's happening. So it's really a great opportunity to buy at 23.40. We're just programmed to do what we do in stocks. The stock's at 23. You buy a $50 stock, you want it to go to 80. You don't want it to come down. This is not stock, and this is the key difference. It's gold, it's money, and you must understand that. So these derivatives that keep getting hit. I mean, look at this one. So it's a 23.68. And then at 10 o'clock, it does the Federal Reserve crush, and it goes all the way down to $30, and it's all bullshit. And then it starts going up, and then another one, and it's algorithms. There's nobody selling; it's algorithms, and people are going to lose their ass shorting gold because it's highly in demand and will go up. All right, so yeah, it's hard to watch it now. However, believe me, we'll see 3,000. It has to go up because of the demand. That's what makes prices go up. See, this is not a true market price because of these algorithm derivatives that are pushing the stock, the dollar, the gold down. So there's nothing wrong with it. It's really great buying opportunity, but off we go. So anyway, that's gold. We can do some stuff on that. So we touched about the gold standard yesterday. Maybe I'll do a little bit more on that. And talk more about inflation today when we get into economics. So haven't gone to the pool yet. I'm going to go after this. So my interview went 11 to 12. It was supposed to go 11:45. But the guy really liked me. And usually if they go longer, it's good. It's like if you're on a date and the girl, she likes you. Hey, let's get dessert. Hey, let's go to this. She likes spending time with you. If after 10 minutes she's got a headache, probably didn't work out. Okay. So we will see what economic stuff we want to talk about. If there's anything you want to talk about, go ahead. All right. So let's look at baseball. Yesterday, we didn't play the baskets. I still don't remember who won. I don't know. I have to check that. Let's see who won basketball. Let's do NBA first. Dallas won 108-105. Okay. So the home team doesn't win game one anymore in a 7-game series, nor does the seventh one. So we know Minnesota is good, and we can see Dallas is good. So this is going to be, we're going to jump on Minnesota in game 2 because they have to win. They go down 2-0 at home, they're in trouble, which is ironic because they went up 2-0 on Denver, winning both games in Denver. And then they lost both games in Minnesota because it's all about the team that has to win. All right, so let's see. What do we got today? We've got Indy and Boston today. Boston leads the series 1-0. Boston is an 8.5-point favorites. Today is May 23. So in the NBA, we're going to take Indy plus 8.5. Now, they played them to overtime. I'm not quite sure why they're getting 8.5. I think that seems like a huge number. I think that's ridiculous. Indy needs the game. Backs against the wall. So not a lot, but go Indy. You got 8.5. Go Indy, beat Navy. All right. Baseball yesterday. We hit San Diego over 9.5. We hit Philly over 10. We lose Pittsburgh because the reliever comes in and gives up 3 runs. We lose Milwaukee over 7. We win Boston over 7.5. We lose Seattle. The Yankees beat them. We win Toronto over 8. We win Atlanta. We lose Oakland, and we lose LA over 8. So we go 1-3 on our 5 stars. Pitt, Milwaukee over 7, and the Dodgers over 8 lose, and then Toronto over 8. And what's confusing is the Dodgers got shut out like 6-0. And the point of the bet was it's a pig pitching for who's LA playing? I don't know. They don't play today. It was a pig pitching against them. You think they're going to score 8 runs. They get shut out. Again, we're dealing with averages, so it makes it difficult. We already have a score. It's 1:30. Jesus Christ. New York 2-0 in the middle of the 4th. Wow. Pittsburgh 1-0 in the top of the 4th against San Francisco. We lost with Pitt. The Niners beat them yesterday. San Diego 2-1 over Cincinnati in the 1st. We have, so Atlanta and the Cubs at 2:20. Texas Phillies in a delay. So there's 4 games. If we can get there. All right. Atlanta and the Cubs, 220. Atlanta's 105, so it's an even and -9. AJ Smith Sawyer, 0-0 with an 0-0 against Ben Brown, 1-1 with a 3.57. Who is Smith Sawyer? Can't you make up your mind? Are you Smith or are you Sawyer? And he hasn't even pitched this year. He pitched a few times last year. He's not a really good pitcher, so they should hit him. The Cubbies have Ben Brown, 1-1 with a 3.57. Big Ben. He's pitched a lot. He really gave up 6 runs against Texas in the first game, and then since then hasn't done that. So he's really, if you take that off, but he's a lot of bullpen. God, he gave up 6 runs in an inning and 2/3. Otherwise, 4-4. Looks like he started against Arizona, gave up 1 hit, and then he's back to the bullpen. This guy you need to start if he's giving up 1 run like this. So he's a bullpen guy. So you got bullpen against nobody. Atlanta's favorite. I don't know why. Let's see who the best. We'll have to go secondary then. Cubs 4.18 ERA, 2.33, and Atlanta 3.20. Much better bullpen, 2.54, much better hitting. So Atlanta's the better team. So we'll have to go with Atlanta. I don't like the pitching. Or do we go over? Let's go over 9. Let's have fun with Atlanta today because I can't bet on a guy who hasn't pitched since a year ago. All right, Atlanta over 9. Oakland and Colorado. Colorado's 105, 7.5. Ryan Felter, 1-4 with a 5.69 against Joey Estes. 1-1 with a 9.35. And this is a 7.5 over-under. So we're going Oakland over 7.5, and this will be 5 units. Toronto and Detroit. Toronto, 105, 7.5. Seems like the popular line. Kevin Gausman, 2-3 at the 4.89. Jack Flaherty, 1-3 at the 3.79. Again, Detroit doesn't hit. Toronto, does Toronto hit or not? They hit 2.28 with a 5 ERA. Jesus Christ. So, boy. Whatever I do, I'm going to lose that. Weak ass bullpen. Neither team can really hit. Toronto hits 2.28. There was one box score I was looking at yesterday, and they had 5 guys that didn't hit 220. And I'm sitting there, how are these major league players? These guys can't hit 220. So I really don't know what to do with this. I don't want to pass. There's only one more game. Let's go Toronto over, but I'm not playing it for anything just because it's 7.5. All right, the last game, Baltimore, Chicago. Baltimore is a huge favorite, 225, 8.5. Grayson Rodriguez, 4-1 with a 3.15 against Mike Clevenger, 0-2 with a 5.56. Yeah, I guess we'll go Baltimore. All right, so there's 4 games. Atlanta over 9, Oakland over 7.5, Toronto over 7.5, and Baltimore. The only one we're playing is Oakland over 7.5, 5 units. We're also playing Indy plus 8.5 for 5 units in the NBA. The Yankees are 2-0 in the 4th inning. The Niners and the Steelers are tied at 1 in the 4th, and San Diego 2, Cincinnati 1, the end of 1. The Atlanta-Chicago game starts in an hour. And then Oakland's at 3:30, and then Detroit and Baltimore tonight. Yeah, Thursdays tend to be smaller, and then these early games. So everybody can fly out. This is the problem with sports right now, is all this travel like this. People are used to a routine, right? If you go to work, you work 8 to 5. If you play football, it's college Saturday afternoon, pro Sunday afternoon, basically, right? So they hate this Thursday night crap. The Monday night crap, I'm sure they hated it, but they got used to it. You really get screwed with Monday night because everybody's resting Sunday night. They played Sunday. You don't even get to play Monday. You got to play Monday night. So you're not resting until really late Monday night is when you finally start healing up from your Sunday, getting hammered. So that's why it used to be bet against the Monday night team that traveled. That used to be a big thing. I don't think it is as much, but people like the routine. And you definitely have to take that into consideration. So the first week, Friday night, Green Bay and Philly are playing in freaking Brazil. I know I went to Lisbon last year, and there was a game in Germany. I think it was in Munich or Frankfurt or somewhere, playing football in Germany. And I was at a hotel, and I said, "You're going to turn on the football game?" He said, "We don't give a shit about that." So why are you in a country that they don't even care about it? They just want to watch soccer. And they're very passionate about soccer, but they don't care about football. So I don't understand. The owners are doing it for the money, but then your product sucks and your players are tired from, instead of flying to New Orleans for a game, you got to fly to Brazil. What are you kidding me? I'm sure that happened to Jacksonville last year. They played back-to-back games on purpose in London. And so they won the second game. But by the end of the year, they were exhausted because now you're on London time. The stupidest thing you could possibly do is stay 2 weeks in London because now you're on. I went to Barcelona. I'm on Barcelona time. You don't. Now you're getting up at midnight because it's what 8 in the morning is midnight there. And you're fucked. You then go on their time, and now you got to go fly back to Jacksonville and get back on that time, which takes 2 weeks. So you're fucked for a month, and by the end of the year, you're so tired. And that's what happened. They lost their last 2 or 3 games because of this stupid travel to London and then they want to stay 2 weeks. So the advantage they gain by being there the second week, which is huge, they lose because now they're on London time. And now when they fly back, your body doesn't it takes probably after 2 weeks in London, it probably takes you 2 weeks to get back on US time, and you're playing football. So it's crazy. Anyway, so yeah, I don't understand all this bullshit with the travel. Like, I'm not sure what their point is. So now the German people are gonna watch football? They don't watch it. They watch soccer. I'm in a hotel. I can't get the game, and it's on. It was Sunday night or whatever. It's not on. Maybe it was Thursday night. I don't know what it was, but they didn't care about football. And then, so why are you there? I assume they give the tickets away to whoever wants to go because nobody's paying for it. They're all paying for soccer games, and nobody's paying to watch a football game. Jacksonville and Tampa, you're not getting anybody in England or in Germany to watch it. Green Bay against Philly, you're not getting anybody in Brazil to watch the game. Maybe if it was Aaron Rodgers, you might, but he's not there. He's not on Green Bay anymore. So again, it's yeah, I get you're getting it for the money, but don't really understand it. All right. What do we want to talk about? Stoic. So I have my interview. I don't mind telling you this because it might help you if you interview, or it might just be a good Stoic way. But so he says, "Tell me about yourself. Why do you want the job? This is what we're looking for." So I listen very stoically to what he's saying, and then I say, "Oh, I'm very good at point A, point B, point C." However, I really am very good at it. So, it was financial budgets and forecasts and stuff like that. So this is right up my alley. It's exactly what I like to do. I like to do more and treat my managers as customers and make sure they're taken care of. And so he loved that. So, but I was trying to be competent. I would say this is what I did, and if I did something, I would complete. I found this problem and I solved it. And then you try to get the point of view of what exactly they want, right? So he wants somebody who's smart, who's on time, who's this, that, and the other. And that's exactly what I gave him. So I figured out, what do you need, right? You're hiring a senior financial analyst, so you need somebody who can do financial stuff. So I show him my example at Mercedes. And the guy's like, loving it. He's like, this is exactly what we need. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I heard what you said. I didn't say that to him, but I knew where I was going with it. So that's what you're trying to do, is present yourself that you fill the need of the employer, because that's what he wants to do. So then you stay stoic. You just stay very, short and sweet, get to the point, let him talk. And we went about 50 minutes, and it was great. Now, at first, my computer didn't work. You know how it sometimes fails here, and we couldn't hear each other. So I said, just call me. Again, being stoic. Why don't you call me? Then we can talk. I don't know if you need to see me so you can see what I look like, whatever. So we ended up doing it on the phone, where at first it was a Teams meeting. But I stayed calm. I stayed confident, and I think I have the job. I got to just meet with my boss now. So I met with my boss's boss and my boss's boss's boss. Those two guys I'd met, CFO and the VP. Now I got to meet with the hiring manager, who's a finance guy, and that should be a piece of cake. And then, the top two guys really like me. So that was stoic. I was a little nervous. You want to come across well, but I knew my stuff and I know me, and very stoic. And so I did very well on it. So I'm very excited. And that's what stoic is. It's no bullshit. You can walk away from that interview saying, I did a good job. If they want me, fine. If they don't want me, fine. But I did a good job, and I'm sure I did a good job, right? I know I did a good job. I'm telling them about myself, but I get a lot of practice here. I highly recommend, if you have to talk in a group setting or something, to do this. Even if you just record videos, it helps you talk and be confident and not scared to talk and not scared to present yourself, because you have nothing to be scared of. This is me. This is who I am. And people then understand that. And I think that's very critical, very important. So anyway, so that's stoic. The interview went very well. So all I could do is present myself very good, which I did. And then the guys in Europe, the hiring managers in Europe, till June 3rd. So I have to wait for that week to interview with him, and then I should get the job as long as I do well there. So I just got to be stoic, be confident. They did the hard part. The CFO was, to me, the hard part. And he loved me, and the VP loved me. So now it's the hiring manager who's, what you going to say to the CFO? I don't like Howard. Well, yeah, but I loved Howard. So what is it you don't like about him? So I know that going in, so I'm going to play to that when I interview with the third guy, and then hopefully start working. And it's a remote job, so that's good. I can do some traveling while I can like work from Barcelona, let's say. They don't care where I work from; it's all remote, so I can go take 2 weeks, and just as long as I get my work done, I wouldn't do it in the beginning, but after I'm comfortable with what I'm doing, I can start doing that, like I was going to do at Harley. Um, anyway, so we know what's happening with gold and silver. We're a little frustrated because it went to 24.40. We're expecting 25. Now, in one hand, it's down to 23.40, 23.50, which we're a little bit pissed at. But on the other hand, we realize, wait a minute, that's where it was last week. Last week at this time, it's 23.40, 23.50. And then we got the big boom up. And it was like 2 days, boom, boom. And now here it's dropping. But like I said, the big key in stocks, if you get bad news, it's going to go down. But we don't have bad news. It's gold. So look for gold to go. All right. What do we want to get into in economics? I have all my notes. So we went through number one powers yesterday, and the financial power, and the French Revolution, and the English, and Adam Smith, and the division of labor. So we went through 1500 to 1600 in Spain. We went through the University of Salamanca, and that's a lot of what Adam Smith used. And it was everybody has a right for private property and free trade and no slavery and written constitution of law. So you have a book, no inflation, money's wealth, low taxes, and little government. Because you want the markets to control themselves. In other words, I'm talking to you about whatever, gold. We don't need anybody interfering. That's why I hate the guest. When Mark McGuire has guests, I hate it because they take you off of the subject because they don't know. When you talk to Mark, you're talking specific. When you talk to you with Egon, it's specific. So when you get the guests and they put their point of view and you're like, I don't want to hear this guy. So I'm very picky who I want to listen to. And I don't want to listen to, you know, I know who I want. So I know who I don't want. So I don't want to listen to Peter Schiff. So if Peter Schiff's a guest on Mark McGuire, I'm not going to watch it because I don't like his point of view. I don't agree with him. I think he's a Keynesian, even though he says he's an Austrian, and I don't like listening to Keynesians because it's a waste of time. So you become much more accustomed to what they are. And that's why I'm picky. Mark McGuire, I don't know if he's Austrian or not, but he explains the comex and the BRICS very good, as does Egon. Egon, I believe, is Austrian. But a lot of these guys aren't. And a lot of these, I was listening to one guy, and what did he say? So this guy, so Andrew McGuire did one where he's explains the gold price fixing, and he's in the office with some guy, and you're like, there's no way this guy's going to help you. You could just see he was just a liberal Democrat, whatever, who was, communist. The problem with Mark McGuire going to be a whistleblower, you might as well be talking to the wall because they're not going to help you. JP Morgan's paid him off. Don't you understand? JP Morgan's behind it. They control it. This guy Gave the excuse, well, I don't have enough people, manpower to really dig into it. He didn't care. He wasn't going to help. So Mark McGuire wants to be a whistleblower, but who you whistle? There's no whistleblowing. There's no who you going to whistleblow to. It's all corrupt. So it's like the referees in the NBA price fixing. Who are you going to go to? The NBA and say, hey, your refs are fixing the games. Yeah, we know. We bet on them too. I mean, that's what he had. So didn't make a whole lot of sense that the guy he went to didn't do shit about it because it's already illegal. Now you understand it's illegal and you try to work on it. In this case, with BRICS buying all the gold, I'm not too worried. Hey, Greg and John. So with him trying to do that, you've already got, it's price fixed. So therefore, it's pointless to whistleblow. So I thought he wasted his time. Then there's this guy from the CPM group. What an idiot this guy is. So he had a few videos. I don't know why $50 silver is possible but unlikely. And this guy's an idiot. I mean, I watched like 2 minutes of his and I just said, you're an idiot. Very disappointing. But see, that's the point. Here he's got one. De-dollarization is a myth and a joke. Man, I watched that for about 30 seconds and told him to fuck off. He doesn't even understand it. The latest news on what, Garga John? So he didn't understand de-dollarization. He says, oh, it's a joke and look at all the dollars still being used a lot. He doesn't understand that all these countries are going to BRICS to get on a gold-backed currency and to get off the dollar. What part is he missing? And I just thought the guy is the biggest he ever said. Then he said, why $50 silver is possible but unlikely? Well, it's not. It's all demand. If you have more demand, right now the derivatives keep it down. But he starts throwing charts and graphs, doesn't know anything. So I don't waste my time with it. I didn't see the Mavs winning. Was a surprise. I wasn't surprised. Minnesota doesn't play well at home, right? Minnesota lost games 3 and 4, and I believe I think they won game 6, but they lost 2 or 3 games to Denver at home. Dallas is obviously a good team, so it didn't surprise me. It won't surprise me if Indiana beats Boston tonight. That won't surprise me. There's no real super team in the NBA, so I'm not really. Any of the 4 can win. It's whoever gets hot. Nobody plays defense, so it's really, it's just the way it is. Now I did today took Indy plus the points. What are they? Indy plus 8.5 against Boston. I think that's a joke. I like Indy and 8.5 there. I think it's way too many. First game went to overtime. That's the game you expect the home team to win, so they can get a jump. But Indy's gonna, now they're after a loss, look for them to win. But anyway, so this is the problem with these guys, where they sit there and they go, de-dollarization's a myth, a joke. It's like the Bitcoin guys. It's the gold standard and all this shit. And that's really the problem I have with these guys. One guy says, as silver prices climb, he's saying, look out for counterfeiters, look for scams. And a lot of people in China, if you go on eBay and you see a $25 price on silver, it's fake, because if you have real silver, you're going to want the market price. And if it's at $30, $31 an ounce, you're going to sell it for 33, 34. So why would you sell it for 25? Nobody's going to sell it under spot. It's because it's not real. So he's saying, as silver gets, same with gold, as it gets more expensive, beware of scams. And they're mostly from China. And on eBay, it's mostly they have zero feedback. So that's your thing. China zero feedback. It's underpriced. Anybody that owns gold is going to want spot for it, right? So this is 700. Maybe it's 680 after going down a few dollars. If you see it for 500, it's not real, right? Why I will not take under 700 for it, and yet I won't take 700. I'm waiting until it goes up to 20,000. So that's the thing. So let's see. So then you got the relationship, and I don't know why $50. Well, it's going to go over it. If you look at it from a demand standpoint and you look at it from a physical standpoint, which is the point I look at it, it's certainly going to go way over 50 because it'll run because the dollar's going out. Now, if you don't believe the dollar's going out, you don't know what you're talking about. You can't print and print and print and it goes out. Why do you think I just sat there and went through who was the number one power? Rome. They got rid of their gold. They collapsed, and France and England. France. France wage and price controls. They inflated, printed money, inflation, price cheese. And every time that happens, the number one power, France and England and Amsterdam, every time that happened, they went out. 1500, 1600, Spain, they inflated the gold, but it was by accident. They just found a whole lot of gold. Holland, 16 to 1650. Again, they did it in France, 1650 to 1789. And they all print and it all goes bad. So don't tell me it doesn't happen. I just gave you 5 examples of when it did happen. So if you're in the Roman Empire, you're saying the same. Well, it'll never happen. Or you're in France, or you're in England. We're on the gold standard. Everything's fine until you inflate because you go to war. Well, we're going to war, and we're inflating the hell out of our dollar. It's gone. But people that don't understand, like this guy, he doesn't get it. Gold won't go up because boom, boom, boom. And they're all the analytics, or what are they called? The log, the analog, whatever they are. God, I always have there's analytics and analog. I don't know, but the log that automatically sells the gold, like what's happening now. As soon as you start buying, as soon as they start buying physical gold, you get rid of the paper gold. And that's really the difference. I wonder if China, the Shanghai Gold Exchange, is going down as much as the U.S. I doubt it. So people are going to buy the U.S. cheap and take it to Shanghai. But if you understand the concepts that the dollar is going out because you're inflating it, which is printing. And you can see what happened in France and France, England, Amsterdam, Spain, and Rome, then it does happen, and it's not a problem. Some MLB games are early. Yes, they are. There's 3 or 4 already started. I already gave baseball. So let's look at the era of mercantilism. The Mercantilist era. Okay, same thing. They just yeah, I don't really have a good. You're on gold. Anyway, we hit most of it yesterday. Um, WW1 ends classical liberalism in 1914. That's all the free trade and the gold standard and everything. People borrowed money from London, and London invested in other countries. 1914 it ends. 1914 to 1965, interventionism. Government intervenes in the economy. So the classical liberalism, 1821 to 1914. Oh, here. So classical liberalism is what we want. Outlaw slavery, adopt free trade, rule of law, adopt gold standard, laissez-faire, and low taxes. And as we know, laissez-faire is leave it alone. Keep the government out. Let it just between us. That's what laissez-faire means. So that's what happened from 1821 to 1914. And the question is why do you change it? If it worked, England's the number one power, classical liberalism. In 1821 to 1914, you're following these things. Standard of living goes up, longevity goes up, no world wars. And you're like, well, let's go to war. World War I was caused because of Russia killing the Archduke Ferdinand of Austria, and that led to the First World War. And it was very expensive, and England, it bankrupted Germany, which led to World War II, which led to Hitler. It bankrupted England and France as they had to pay for it. It's expensive wars. You got to get, not only you got to feed the men, there's transportation, there's all the missiles and the guns and the bullets, and now it's more aircrafts and submarines and boats and Tomahawk missiles and all that stuff, defense things. So it becomes a very costly thing to go to war. Where are you going to get the money? See, that's the problem. Where do you generate the revenue? In World War II, we charged the English to make them tanks and cars and bullets and all that, because England didn't have it. And even Russia, we did a lot of manufacturing for Russia. And Ford also helped the Germans. So that's where we made a lot of money. They paid for it, but when you're in your own war, they don't pay. Like now, we're giving money to Ukraine. Why are we giving them money? Like, oh, we're giving them money so we can make more defense stuff. So the defense contractors, we're not giving it to the Ukraine. We're giving it to the defense contractors. And Zelensky and Biden and those guys are putting it in their pocket with the rest of it. So what are we doing here? So it costs a lot for a war, and that's what ends up blowing everything up. So again, to become the financial power is the same as classical liberalism. Free trade, law, gold standard, laissez-faire, low taxes. So that ends in 1914. And then we get the interventionism era, which is the government intervening, which is what FDR did. He created the Depression to last 10 years longer than it should have. Should have been over in 1929. The stock market went down to 29, but it was back to like 200 in 6 months. Everything's fine. He panics. All this government spending. He takes the gold, which is our wealth, and then he inflates, and we have this depression all caused by FDR. And so when I watch this show with Jack Bauer on it now, he loves FDR. I go puke. I'm like, what are you, an idiot? What do you mean you love FDR? He was the worst president there ever was. He makes Obama look good. I mean, he's terrible. In comes a progressive income tax. In comes the Federal Reserve. Came in due to political favor. Some groups favored over others. That's J.P. Morgan wanting monopolies. There's supposed to be free market economics. That's what America is. That's what Adam Smith is. And people argue because they want to be a monopoly. They don't want they can't handle competition. So they want the monopoly. They want that. And that's what the Fed is. Government tried to regulate the economy. Why? Let the economy run. If you just leave it alone, the economy fixes itself, especially in the gold standard. Spanned by 2 wars and the Great Depression, government expanded but never shrank, benefit with contribution. And then from 1965 to the present era of entitlement, where you want health care, but you're entitled to the benefit without contribution. So that's a lot of how we got to this situation where we're totally fucked. Then in 1971, we get off of gold. Well, we see what happened when you get off of gold. You're done, right? As soon as you get off of gold, because you don't have real money. It's not money. Let's see. Continental Congress. Okay, so now we're on the third test. June 22nd, 1993. Continental Congress, 1763, French and Indian War. England wanted to tax the U.S. for the war. The U.S. didn't want to pay. Caused a war. Well, that makes sense. Why England wanted to tax the U.S. is another question. But they had no business doing that. Continental Congress, 1 member from each colony, 13 colonies, fight the revolution, support Washington. They could print money. The continental dollar financed the war. As I said, the wars are expensive. You need some money to do it. But if you're going to print money, it's always going to be inflated unless it's gold. They printed money, continental money, racked up a large debt, again, as what's always going to happen with the war. Legal tender laws made continental dollars legal, almost hyperinflation. There we go again. Oh, you mean, so if you just print dollars that aren't backed by anything, you're always going to have inflation and it's always going to go to zero. So this is why I warn you about this. This is not backed by anything. So we already realize this is the Titanic because we see it all over the place. Rome, Amsterdam, Spain, France, England, and now the U.S. has turned to get off of gold, print this to zero, have the inflation. So the only common denominator since the Roman times is this. It can never be copied or inflated, because the only time it was inflated was in Spain when they found a bunch in Mexico, the Incas and the Mayas. They found a ton, so now you're sitting on all these gold and they just print it away. So it was too much, but that was very unusual, and it's not going to happen now. But this is always, and even so, this still held its value. But this won't go away because you can't print it. So at the end of the day, if you hold this, you're going to be king. And who's doing it now? Russia, China, BRICS. Everybody wants to join BRICS because everybody realizes this is how these number one powers came in. They had the gold standard. They're going right off this list, the gold standard. That's why Austrian economics works. We follow Adam Smith. We follow laissez-faire. We follow Say's law. We follow low taxes, low government, and gold standard, and a real rule book governed by real laws that they follow. That's the recipe to be successful. And yet we want socialism. Well, the only reason they want socialism is they don't want to bake the pie. They want to eat the pie. And that's what these kids, the kids don't want to do anything. They just want it handed to them. And they don't, nobody understands inflation. Again, they think it's prices. It's not. It's really not prices. It's this is losing value. Therefore, things cost more. That's what inflation is. So it's not Coca-Cola raising their price. It's just that's what's happening. So anyway, it's just funny how nobody really understands this stuff. So we get right to the chase, just by the gold and silver, because whatever money that isn't backed by that, it will go to zero. We understand that. Okay, legal tender laws. Washington's army confiscated property. We're a Confederate country, Articles of Confederation. They assumed all the debt from the war by the Continental Congress. No taxation. They could borrow, and this failed. Philadelphia, the Constitutional Convention, which made up the Constitution. Alexander Hamilton. Thomas Jefferson was in France. He was the ambassador, and now he's on the nickel. Huge debt in the U.S. Alexander Hamilton, 1755, in the West Indies, was born. He was an England citizen, poor, became wealthy, died in debt. He got the U.S. out of debt, influenced the presidents, rivaled the king of Europe. So you have all these Britain guys coming over. They're on the king's team, and then we're trying to be independent because we don't like the king's taxing us. Well, like, what the fuck are you taxing us for? Sort of like what we get now. We get taxed. Why are you taxing me? I go out, I find something, I start earning money. What do you, why are you taxing me? Winning the lottery. Why are you taxing me? I won the lottery. You want 50%? I hit a $2 million lottery. You want 50% of that? Why? Who are you to ask for 50% of my money? I mean, the whole thing's just unbelievable. Served in war, became a tax collector, elected to the Continental Congress. That's Alexander Hamilton. He did defend the loyalist, the crown, England, a strong nationalist, delegate from New York to be on Continental Congress, legislative, judicial, executive, which are the three divisions of government. Two brands, House Representative and the Senators, or two branches, I'm sorry, House Representative and the Senators. National President for life. Central government should appoint the state government. He liked the English system, copying it. He wanted the U.S. to copy the English system. Bad idea. New York was a key state. Federalist Papers, Hamilton, Madison, and John Jay wrote them. More energetic government. Federalist, unity, sovereignty, anti-federalist, first Secretary of the Treasury, 1789. He had to pay off the debt of the war. We don't like Alexander Hamilton. He's a socialist, right? But they're just explaining. So he wanted to do things and copy what they did in England, but that they had a king there. Doesn't work. 1793, the French in England, French versus England in war. Jefferson, the Secretary of State. Hamilton, the leader of the Federalist Party. Madison, the Speaker of the House. Jefferson became the third president of the U.S., Democratic, Republican, well-bred, wrote the Declaration of Independence and got his face on the nickel. Northwest Ordinance for Northwest Territory. Will started. Vision, nation of small farmers, independent people. That's what we want. We want to be independent. Every 20 years, a revolution would be a good thing. I don't know about that. Government is a necessary evil. Yes. Supported public education. Ooh. Supported Locke's theory of natural life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness and property. Government by the people, protect natural rights. And this is what's not happening now. The government is not by the people. They're for the special interest. They're supposed to be protecting natural rights. They don't. So they're not following the Constitution. They all take the oath to defend the Constitution, and none of them know what it is, and none of them are defending it. They should all be thrown in jail. Have the right to money. Money is property. Government should not be in banking. Yes, please get the fucking Fed out of here. No checks on federal government. Hamilton pushed for higher tariffs, Federalists, to get out of war debts. A lot of power in the federal government. We don't want that. We want laissez-faire. We don't want tariffs. We want free trade. So you can see Hamilton is sort of a socialist. Jefferson didn't like the power. Democratic Republic. Set up first bank of the U.S. It's a national bank. So what do you do with your money? Who controls the money? But back then, it was each bank printed their own money. They didn't have the Fed. Bank of the U.S., national bank, private funds, controlling interest. Government has a larger share is a con. So the pros are Hamilton, control of, increased control of the money supply. Hamilton, good ability to regulate who to lend out the money to invest, set interest rates. You could control other banks. Jefferson, bad. Do what you want with your money. You want the right what to do with your money. So Jefferson's, again, very individualistic, very laissez-faire, very Adam Smith, and Hamilton's not. Hamilton's a socialist. Increase the ability to borrow and international respect. Hamilton, if no cent say no, then do it. If it doesn't say no, God, if it doesn't say no, then do it. Brought U.S. out of inflation of the war by the central bank. Tariffs were the primary tax for the U.S. So we're making all this, and we're taxing whoever country we send it to, taking that money, and that's how you paid off the debt. Okay. Jefferson, law only do what's in the Constitution. He didn't renew the Bank of the U.S. So Hamilton's sitting there saying, if it doesn't say no, then go do it. And Jefferson's saying, no, it's only what's in the Constitution that's legal. So Articles of Confederation before the Constitution, no tax. They taxed tariffs, no common currency. New York was taxing Philadelphia. This is a bad idea. It should be free trade. 1787, a new constitution. U.S. is a single nation. So instead of 13 colonies, it's now one. It's like the SEC now. It's just one conference. 4 economic provisions. 1, outlawed tariffs between states, internal. U.S. was the world's largest free trade market. So Kentucky doesn't tax Tennessee. There's no tax between states. No tariffs. Metallic standard. No state can make anything but gold or silver the legal tender. Where did that go? 1787. This is in the Constitution. How come that went away? Why are we doing paper money? Oh, because of the fucking Federal Reserve. Biggest problem you could ever have. Tax limitation, taxes levied by a strong population. And number 4, takings clause, private property cannot be taken for public use without just compensation. This made the U.S. the economic leader in the world. So again, the 4 were no tariffs between states, gold standard, tax limitations, taxes levied by a state population, and you can't take private property. And all of a sudden, we became the number one power, us, England, very similar. And we, the economic leader of the world. And all we did was the same things that we're supposed to do. Gold standard, private property, tax limitations, and no tariffs, free trade. It seems like it works every fucking time. And yet, the people get into office and they start fucking around with this because, well, I want to go to war because the defense contractors need to make more money. So let's have a war so they can make bullets and guns and tanks and missiles and rockets and tomahawks and planes. How else am I going to sell my F-19 or F-16 jets? Well, we need a war so we can build more jets. Otherwise, we can't build them. So now it becomes this whole industrial complex running the country instead of the fucking Constitution. There shouldn't be wars. If you got the gold standard, there's no inflation, there's no very little interest rates. Everybody gets better and better and better. But let's have wars and spend money and go bankrupt because we can't pay for the war because we need revenue to pay for it, which we won't get because it's just another expense. George Washington, President, first under the Constitution, John Adams, VP, Thomas Jefferson, Secretary of the State, and amazingly, Alexander Hamilton, Secretary of Treasury. Oh my God. Summation. Republican, Jefferson. Well, we'll call him a conservative or an Adam Smith. Good. National rights. Agrarian favored farmers and small business. Adam Smith, laissez-faire, free trade, small government is better. Strict constitutional constructionist, must be in the Constitution or the government can't do it. Intellectual, wrote Constitution, states' rights, worried about inflation and concentric power or the power of the government. Hamilton, Democrat, was bad. Now, at that time, the Republican Democrats were kind of like they used to be. Hamilton was bad. He wanted a large government, wanted to be like England, loose constructionist or constitutionalist. He wanted tariffs. He wanted government projects, nationalist, monarchist. So you can see all the bad, and that was Hamilton. And so now you understand. You want guys like Jefferson, not Hamilton, because you want the small government, the free trade, the gold standard. You wanted all that. You want the Adam Smith stuff. It works. And when people say, well, capitalism doesn't work, tell me where you see that it doesn't work. In what part of your imagination do you see a gold standard and low taxes and free trade not working? Seems like every time they did it, they're the number one power. And, they all want a larger government because they all want handouts. That's not what government's for, but he did worry about inflation and concentration of power. We have the concentration of power. That's what the government is, right? They get all the power. They tell us what to do. Well, you got to drive an electric car. You got to do this. You got to do that. Why? What's going on with that? That's ridiculous. So this is your problem. They knew back then. Jefferson knew exactly. This is 1787. He knows you've got to be on the gold standard. How the fuck do we get off the gold standard? At what point is the gold standard bad? Oh, well, if we go to war, we can't print money. And notice it goes off in 1914, and notice what happens. World War I. As soon as we get off of gold and we go to a Federal Reserve, central bank, here's World War I, and here's World War II, and here's the Great Depression, because now you're fucking with the money, and people are going broke. They're losing their jobs. Well, shit, from 18... What is it? Where am I at? Well, from 1787 to 1914, we're golden. We're the kings. And then as soon as you go to a central bank and you cut out gold, we're fucked. Then we went back to gold after World War II, and it didn't last long, 1971. And again, let's get off of gold. This is why I say the president should not have that. He's got to play within the rules. So in other words, the president's saying, you know what? Instead of 4 downs to make 10 yards in football, You only have to go through, you got 3 downs to go 10. He starts changing the game around. No. It's 4 downs, 10 yards, and off you go. And I don't like the changes they made. Let's make the goalpost thinner. Let's make the extra point from from 50 yards out. What are you doing? It's the extra point. It's a reward for scoring a touchdown. It should be from the 2-yard line. So you're kicking it from the 10. It's an extra point. You've won it because you've scored the touchdown. It shouldn't be from the 30 now. That's fucking ridiculous. That whole rule is ridiculous. Now they're changing the kickoff. No. This is the game. That's what you need to do. It's like baseball. Well, now if they go to the 10th inning, we'll put a guy on second. No. You don't get second. At best, you get first. What are we trying to do here? Well, we want to speed the game up. Why? Because you made it so boring that people can't sit for 2.5 hours to watch a game because there's nobody in it, and you've changed the rules. Oh, it's terrible. All right. Bank disputes. Jefferson, Kahn, free banking, zero inflation. Must be backed by gold. There we go again. 1830 to 1861 competition between banks would prevent inflation. They each printed money. So you could go to Chase and they printed money, but then Goldman Sachs printed money, and you can go to Wells Fargo, they printed it. So everybody printed their own money. You had competition, and guess what? You didn't have inflation. Because if they did, people would just leave it and they'd go to the other banks. At least that was intelligent. Hamilton wanted a central bank, no competition, a lot of power, inflation. Now we know why we don't like Hamilton. So I was watching Larry David once, and he was at this play, Hamilton, and I turned it off. I'm like, do you fucking know what you're talking about here? I mean, this is the worst guy I've ever seen. I mean, he's as bad as these other presidents. He's as bad as FDR. FDR's fucking killed the country. So, but people don't understand. They don't know. So Hamilton, FDR, he was a great president. No, he wasn't. He sucked. It was terrible. Paid off debt through the sale of the Western land. I don't know if they sold the Western land. Andrew Jackson, administration, sets the tone for today. Strict constructionist. That's constitutional guy. Zero inflation, separation between government and money. The Suffolk Bank, private central bank. No discount, 10% discount. They won't accept their checks. Can back with gold on checks. So the checks were like backed by gold. Deposits from other bank. So the Suffolk Bank was this private bank, but it was backed by gold. So Andrew Jackson said it, no inflation. You got to do what the Constitution says. And it's got to be gold-backed money. How did that go away? He puts it in, and then it goes. This is the problem. The bad people. It's like the Hobbit, right? You have the dwarves dig up all this gold, and then here comes the dragon. And it happens all, you get all this gold, and then here comes the dragon to say, no, let's have a central bank and inflate it, and we won't use money. And it's like you can't get away from it. And we're on the gold standard. Why do we keep getting off of it? Oh my God. Civil War, 1861 to 1865, turning point in the U.S. States' rights, tariff, free trade, abolish of slavery. The South were Jeffersonians, the North tariffs, and Hamilton. So it's Hamilton against Jefferson. Hamilton wanted tariffs. The South said, screw it. We don't want tariffs because they had all the cotton. They're making clothes. They're selling them to the British. We don't want tariffs. The South wanted free trade. Well, there you go. Low price for manufactured goods, sell abroad. North wanted tariffs against the British. Again, Hamilton with his fucking tariffs. British bought cotton to make clothes. North didn't want the British competition. South sold cotton to the Britain. So the South, I guess, sold cotton to the North and also to Britain. Abe Lincoln, minority president. Southern states seceded, leaving Union. Economic growth slowed down with Lincoln. There are 4 ways to finance a war. And the little box says, are these inflationary or debt and interest? Taxes. So the 4 ways to finance a war: taxes, bonds, government money, or bank money. Okay, these are the 4. The first one, taxes. There's no inflation. Bonds, there's no inflation. Fiat, yes, there's inflation. And bank, fiduciary, yes, there's inflation. Are there debt and interest? The taxes, there's no debt or interest. Bonds, yes. Fiat, no. And bank credit, yes, because the banks charge you interest. The government doesn't charge you interest. Lincoln went to fiat money, greenbacks, to pay for the war, inflation. Again, we have to go off gold because we can't print money. And well, if we want to go to war, there's no revenue. So we got to pay for the war, the weapons, the men, feed the horses, everything, all the weapons and the ammunition and everything. We need to pay for that. And that's why wars are always expensive. That's why you should have a private army and just let them do all that and you pay them. Like on day 6, 24 day 6. Or was it day 7? It's the one when Tony Almeida comes back when he was dead. I think it's day 7. I don't know. One of those 2 days. How did the North finance the war? Greenbacks, fiat money. Lincoln issued greenbacks. 2 types of money floating around: greenbacks traded at a discount, inflation, or gold. Imagine that. They issued bonds to pay for the gold. Okay. National Bank Act. Monopoly on the issuance of currencies. Reserves could be bonds, greenbacks, and gold. They outlawed gold. Again, what's with the outlawing of gold? Poor gold. They outlawed the state bank back notes, taxed the bank notes. The national system, central city reserve banks, and gold. Gold's on the bottom. It's a triangle, gold, and then the central city reserve banks. They had to create a monopoly. That's why they got rid of the other money, gold and banknotes. Why did they have to have a monopoly? This led to fiduciary inflation and the trade cycle. Oh, there you go again. There's county banks, city banks, central city reserve banks, and again, of course, gold. So they get rid of gold to create the monopoly, which is exactly what we have now. So that idea never gets away from Hamilton. So again, they don't want gold because they can't print and go to war. Why are they going to war? You're going to war because the South wants to sell their cotton to Britain. Why is that going to war? You can't sit down and say, look, don't do the tariffs and we'll give you 10% of what we make. Or, you know what? Fuck you. You're not entitled to anything. We're the ones making the cotton. And we don't want to share it with you. Go make something else. Go make automobiles in the 1700s, 1800s. Start of large government projects. The Transcontinental Railroad, the Union Pacific Railroad went east to west. Central Pacific Railroad went west to east. Yeah, I guess you need 2 tracks, right? Government highly subsidized the railroads. The first scandal, Credit Mobilizer. They laid the track and received land, contract company, owned by the Congress. So you're starting to get railroads put in so you can travel versus the horse and buggy. And this, I don't know, this is the late 1800s, so it's before Ford and the car. All right. Period after the war led to corruption. Two types: entrepreneurial business, market forces, and political entrepreneur get favors from government. JP Morgan, there he goes. He's off and running. Um, we're entrepreneur. I sell football picks. It's entrepreneur. You either like them or you don't. I got competition. You pay. Boom. Political entrepreneurs, they get favors from governments. So the government, like the banks, have favoritism to them. Democrats are pro-gold and low tariff. Republicans are anti-gold and high tariff. So the Democrats, Republicans have switched from Hamilton and Jefferson. In 1879, U.S. back on the gold standard. Hey, what happened? Low taxes, little government, country exploded with economic growth. So anybody that says the gold standard isn't good and a little government and low taxes and free trade's not good, point them to 1879. Country exploded with economic growth till 1913. And why the fuck would we put in a central bank? You've got it. Everything's going well. No, let's put a central bank, get off gold. What the fuck? I don't understand this. 1879, 1914, U.S. was a debtor nation because of expansion. So we're growing. We're going to California. We're making, Vegas, all these west. We're growing west and everything else. Here we go. Our favorite, J.P. Morgan, the motherfucker. Presidents from New York, he basically bought them and put them in. Monopolies. Investment banker, ignored capital from Europe. Railroad, steel, and GM was how he got rich. England, don't know what that means. He imported capital from England. Okay. Prime political entrepreneur, expert and building cartels, guaranteed profits, limited competition, which is what he's trying to do with gold. We don't want gold, so we want to limit the competition to the dollar is what he's doing, and that's what he's done. But now with BRICS, you're fucked because you have competition and they're backed by gold. You lose. Expert at building cartels. Cartels are like OPEC. There's 3 or 4 countries that do oil and they set the price. And it's a lot supply and demand. If they set it too high, there's less usage. They set it too low, there's more. So they sit there and try to figure out, okay, let's make it $80 a barrel or whatever. You got government to regulate and limit competition, price fixing. He's still fucking doing it. He's doing it with our gold, silver right now. He wanted a central bank, the Fed. Rockefeller was a business, so that's JP Morgan. He wants the monopolies. He wants the Fed. He doesn't want gold. Rockefeller, business entrepreneur, cost cutter, fought Morgan with antitrust laws, which says competition, you can't have monopolies. That's what we should do. Rothschilds controlled the Russian oil wells, and they control the presidents that are from Ohio. So there's the election in New York and Ohio, and it's really J.P. Morgan against Rothschild. Presidents, 1901 to 1908 was Roosevelt. He was a Morgan from New York. 1909 to 1913, Taft was the president from Rockefeller, put him in. 1913 on, Woodrow Wilson was a Morgan guy who, of course, put the Fed in. Put an income tax in the Fed, the motherfucker. Senators were elected by popular vote. Morgan controls the Fed. Still does. This is why when people say, who owns the Fed? It's J.P. Morgan. He wants a monopoly. He's got it. And if you think a CBDC is coming and he's given up control of his monopoly of the Fed, you're out of your freaking mind. There's no way this guy is not keeping the Fed printing the money. Even when it goes to zero, he'll come out with it. There's no way we'll have CBDCs. There's no way JP Morgan's not going to be involved. And that's why there's no way you'll have CBDCs, because that's central bank. He ain't going to let that happen. He's not going to lose his bank. And he runs the country because he runs the government because he pays off the politicians. So J.P. Morgan's running our country and has been for a while. 3 keys about Morgan: antitrust laws, political entrepreneur, and cartels. Business wants protection. Oh, we can't compete. Sort of like Alabama in football. We don't want competition. We just want to be Alabama and win the title every year. And then Georgia finally said, fuck off. From 1879 to 1914, gold standard, no government intervention until Wilson and Morgan came on in 1914. After the Civil War, the Fed government becomes more powerful, the federal government handout, sets up intervention, ends classical liberalism in 1914. So that's the beginning of the end is 1914. 1913 and 1914, a big change in the U.S. U.S. government starts intervening. 1914, end of classical liberalism, start interventionism. World War I, nobody won World War I. Every problem gets traced back to World War I in the 20th century. Trigger the war, killed the Archbishop of Austria. Serbians wanted control over the Austrian states. Black Hand, the mafia, had an alliance with Russia. Well, that sounds that's still there. Princip was the Black Hand or the mafia. Leave it to the mafia to start these wars. Demetrius, evil Black Hand leader, kills the king of Serbia. Serbia wanted the piece of land owned by the Austrians in Yugoslavia. The war is about land. Russia wanted a warm weather seaport. Let's have a war over it. How it became World War, I don't know. Russians got France to fight Germans, and they got the Serbs to fight the Austrians. So here's Russia has French and Serbs against the Germans and the Austrians. World War I. Russia wants Constantinople, which is the seaport in Turkey. That's what they want. The warm weather seaport, because they're Russia. They don't have any oceans. The oceans are like the Arctic, and it's hard to get a boat through all the ice. So they want to. That's Russia's disadvantage this whole time is they can't. England and France and Spain and Amsterdam all get right out to the ocean, and they can trade, and that's why they're always the richer countries. Russia couldn't do that, so they couldn't trade. They did have boats. It was I don't know how their routes were, but it was no warm water ocean to go to. So Constantinople is Turkey, which is obviously between Asia and Europe. It's the big waterway. Princip, 18-year-old. Princip is the Black Hand, killed Princip. He is the Princip, 18-year-old, kills Ferdinand, the Austrian Archduke, started the war. Okay, so Ferdinand, I knew it was an Archduke. So Princip, the Black Hand, kills Ferdinand, the Austrian Archduke, starts the war, gets Serbia into the war against Austria. Russia backs Serbia. Russia, Demetrius, the Black Hand, Princip. So they're all part of the mafia. Austria declares war on Serbia. Germany backs Austria. Russia, ally with France. Britain needs to back the French Navy. It's a mess. Why is England and France in the war? What do they give a fuck about it? So Germany backs Austria. Germany can't wait to go into a war. And nobody wins the war. Serbia, agitated by Russia and France. Russia wanted Istanbul for warm weather seaport, as I said. See, what a memory I have. That was out of the memory. This was on my notes. Pontcare, head of war party for France, invested in Russia with railroads. So they're all protecting their investments. France and Russia couldn't defeat Germany. Russia likes fighting Germany. So does France. Couldn't defeat Germany by themselves, but could win a two-sided war. France afraid of the German Navy. France agrees with England to use their Navy. So the England comes in because we need their Navy. Austria-Hungary allied with Germany and Italy. Now we understand World War II. We have Germany, Austria, Italy, and Hungary together there, and in World War II. Serbia Princip goes into Austria and shoots the Archduke. Yes, we know that. Serbia, Russia, France, and England and Belgium versus Austria, Hungary, Germany, and Italy. Sounds like a wrestling match, right? Battle of Tannenberg, end of the Tsar. Germany defeats Russia but lose the war. 1914 ends. 1914 ends. Free trade, gold standard, classical liberalism starts era of intervention, as we know. All right, last little bit. J.P. Morgan is responsible for the U.S. into the war. Oh, how surprising. Just like now, J.P. Morgan's responsible for us in the Ukraine. Now, here's responsible for World War I. 1914 recession crash, U.S. chief supplier to both sides. J.P. Morgan at his finest, supplying weapons to both sides. Agricultural booms, copper, minerals, manufactures, war material. Morgan propaganda, he owned 25 newspapers. Sounds like today. Morgan buys all war material for France and England. Gold influx from England and France. Securities are also used to buy war materials. Morgan liquidates Britain, sells stocks, private loans through Morgan. So Morgan's a bad fella. He's still a bad fella. And this Jamie Dimons is a bad fella. So that's what you have here is J.P. Morgan gets us into the war and sells the weapons to both sides. I don't care. I just need a war. I just need to sell weapons because if there's not a war, I can't sell weapons. Oh my God. 1915, Licatine incident. Britain boat full of ammunition, anti-German from Morgan's newspapers in the U.S. Woodrow Wilson works for Morgan. How is that any different than what's going on today? Biden works for who? The Chinese or Morgan? And Morgan works for the Chinese. It's been going on since 1915. Woodrow Wilson, the president, works for Morgan. This is where everything collapses. You start getting away, you start getting big government. It starts taking these bribes from these people, and they're working for the lobbyists. They're not working for the people anymore. Just fucking terrible. But you can see what's happened, and you can see it's the same thing. It's the same playbook. Gold influx from England and France. That's why England's no longer the number one. We get all the gold. We turn into number one, but then we don't go on the gold standard. 1915. Okay, I said that. 1916, Colonial House, Morgan's friend. Vatican has peace plan. Britain rejects offer. We had that happen when Putin wanted a peace plan with Ukraine, and then Boris Johnson, through Biden, says, no, we don't want it. So in 1916, the Vatican has a peace plan that Britain rejects the offer. What are you fighting for? So Russia can get a warm weather seaport, and what is it? Austria can get a little piece of land in Yugoslavia. So let's go to war for it. Oh my God. 1917, Wilson puts U.S. into World War I. U.S. is in England's side. U.S. tricked into the war. J.P. Morgan put us in. And now we're off the gold standard. Again, let's have a war and get off the gold standard. 1917, Russia, Lenin leads the communist revolution. World War I creates the communist revolution, which is terrible. 1916, Russian Revolution, Kerensky regime, communist wins the revolution. 1917 to 1989, we have communism, which is basically slavery and government control, and it sucks. 1918, Germany gets peace, Treaty of Versailles. British blockade wins the war, so it must be a supply issue. The Fed inflates by lowering the reserve requirements. So the Fed goes to the bank and says, If Howard puts in $100, you got to have 20% of that 100 in the bank in case Howard wants his money. And the Fed then lowered that reserve to now you only need $10 for Howard's 100. And that's one way you inflate the money supply because they just loan it. They just loan money out of thin air. The boom, the U.S. produces for rest of the world. U.S. was a debtor before World War I. U.S. was a creditor after World War I. We should have free trade to get paid off. Britain has U.S. competition. No gold standard. We sell on credit to Europe. 1919 and 1920, the world is buying from U.S. all on credit. We go on COD to the rest of the world. All trade stops. This starts the bust recession. Farmers are stupid. They think boom will keep going. Manufacturing is smart. They hold reserves. Here comes your Great Depression. Here's the beginning of it. 1920, Hardin as president, returned to normalcy. Hardin program to solve the recession. President 1920. Oh, lower taxes, cut government expenditures, deregulate the economy, laissez-faire economy, restores the gold standard. So this is so funny. When they need to fix it, they go on the gold standard. Why the fuck do they get off the gold standard? Oh, let's have a war. Oh my God, this is fucking insane. 1921, the Fordney-McCumber tariff raises tariff, agriculture goes into recession because you make it too expensive. Why are we doing tariffs? We're not supposed to do tariffs. It's supposed to be free trade. Easy money starts the Great Depression in a sense. Low interest rates to farmer, bank lends out money to foreigners, credit, stabilization policy, falling prices. Fed prints, here we go. Fed prints money to stabilize prices, to fend off competition. This sets up the trade cycle, which we know how bad that is. To save England, started unions, never lowered tax rates. Fed lowered interest rates to save England after World War I, rigid economy. And you wonder why we had the Great Depression. Thank you, J.P. Morgan. 1922, 1924, 1927. The Fed inflates money into the economy to keep the boom going. Why? Let it go to free market. This is what I understand about right now we should be at free market. We're not. The Fed wants to raise rates. Fed wants to lower rates. The Fed's trying to control the economy and it can't. That's what that one idiot said about, well, we always go back to socialism. This isn't socialism. Because the Fed is not the government. The Fed's a private bank run by your JP Morgan. Germany, hyperinflation, 1924, the Dawes Plan by American bankers lend Germany gold to go on gold standard to collect on the debt. They adopt free enterprise, sound currency. Germany borrows money back from the U.S., which is leading to their major inflation. And then we'll leave it with this last page, 1924, 1928, the boom in Germany. Germany must have free trade. It's a house of cards built on free credit, so 0% interest rates. 1924, the new era, government ability to interfere in the economy, no more fear of a recession or depression because of the Fed. The New Deal, 1924, government intervention, deliberate move for inflation by bank credit expansion or the fiduciary by the banks, not the government. Age of intervention. 1922, 24, 27, increases in the money supply to save Britain. 27 through 29, boom in stock prices until 29. And then the stock prices collapse because you have a boom that isn't created by the free market, but it's done by the Fed with these. And that was 7/7/93. My lucky days, 7 and 7. And then we will get to the Depression next time. 1929, the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act basically fucked us royally. So the bottom line is this is always good. It's never inflated and is always off the gold standard to go to war. You're done with the war. You need money. You're going bankrupt. You go back on gold. It's just hysterical. Why do you get off of it? For war. Why do you need a war? Well, Russia needed a warm weather seaport in Turkey. Well, let them go get it. Let them go pay for a warm weather seaport. Why do we need to go to war for it? Oh my God, it's just ridiculous. So World War I was just a clusterfuck. World War II was even stupider. It's because of this and the Depression and Germany being broke that a guy like Hitler could get to power. And Hitler didn't come to power right away because they didn't want him. He didn't get elected in. They didn't want anything to do with Hitler. And he kept sticking his nose in. And eventually, I think the Reich chancellor died. And then Hitler seized power and did a lot of underhanded stuff, as we know, and basically fucked Germany over. So when Jenna wanted to go to Berlin, I met her, last year, and I did not like any. What am I going to do? Go to a museum and what? See the Nazis? I had no desire, and I didn't like the reminder. So now she wanted to go, and I said, I'm not going. I have no desire to go hear about Hitler again, or the Nazis, or see Berlin. And I said, I don't have any desire for that. That's just, it's a bad reminder. It's sort of like you're married and then you get divorced. You don't want to be reminded of your ex. You want to move on. So basically, that's where it was. I had no. So her friends from the Ukraine's in Berlin. Go. I'm not going. I refuse to go. All right. So that's some economics for you to digest. We are Jefferson fans, not Hamilton fans. May 23rd in the NBA, we like Indiana an 8.5 for 5 units. We like Atlanta over 9, Oakland over 7.5, Toronto over 7.5, and Baltimore. There's already been 3 or 4 games started. Good luck. The only pick I have is Oakland over 7.5 for 5 units, and then the basketball Indy. And that's it. The interview went very well. I've been hearing from Daria every day, so I've been calm. My next interview will be the week of June 3rd, and I've already met with the CFO and the VP, so the odds on me getting hired are, I would say, 95.5, but there's nothing we can do until we know, so I got to wait another 2 weeks. Fine. The pay will be good, and I still want to do the teaching. I'll still do this, but I'll do this at night. Actually, it's a remote job, so I will do it at night. And then for sure on the weekend, especially when football starts. So I should start, if everything goes well, the second week of June. And hopefully by then, Daria will have our date of meeting in Serbia. And then I can tell them I have a vacation planned in July. And then, I'll tell them when they start that I do have a vacation planned, but not set yet. So I'm going to meet Daria, but I don't know when. Anyway, so all I can say is be yourself. One thing that came out in the interview what I liked is I said, look, I'm very honest. I don't understand lying. It's stupid. I'm professional. I will be honest with you, and I am and very respectful. And that's all that's they wanted to hear that. But that's how you should be in life. You should be very honest. You should be very stoic and very trustful. You want your word to mean anything. Well, if Howard says it, it's true. And I guarantee you, I am very honest here, especially being a handicapper. A lot of them only tell you one side of the story, or these are the games I won, but they don't want to tell you the games they lost. So I am very honest. That's why I do this, the class. You already know my baseball picks. I just gave them to you. So I can't come back and say, oh, yeah, I hit the Yankees. I don't even have the Yankees. They already started. All right, let's see. Let's see how our gold's doing. Hopefully it started to come back. Philadelphia 4-1 over Texas in the fourth. I think that game had already started. San Diego 4-2. Yeah, that's an earlier game. Atlanta and the Cubbies. We got Atlanta over 9 in the third inning. It's 0-0, of course. I love that. I'll go over on a game, and it's already fourth inning. It's 0-0. You're like, but the pitchers suck. Yankees 5-0 in the eighth, and Frisco over Pittsburgh 7-6 in the eighth. All right, let's see what our gold's doing. I'm scared to look. $23.35. Well, it just keeps. It was $23.41, then it dumped. So it dumped at 10 o'clock, and then it dumped at noon, and then it dumped at 2 o'clock. From 23.40 to 23. So it's a 23.35. Silver's at 30.20. As long as silver stays over 30, we're okay. And the fat gold's 23.35. It's fine. I would anticipate it going back to 2,400. Well, it's a holiday weekend, so I don't know how tomorrow will play. Holiday on Monday, so we'll be closed. So it should go up because we're the ones knocking it down. So this will be very interesting. Anyway, that's what we have. So good luck to everybody. The economics is very interesting. It explains a lot. Even the history, it always goes back to, they went on the gold standard. They were very successful, and they got off of it, and they had inflation, and there's wars. And it just shows you why they don't want the gold standard is so they can go to war. And so the defense, or JP Morgan sold World War I, he sells arms to both sides. That's about it in a nutshell. That's why you don't have the gold standard. So you can have wars and make profits by selling arms to both sides. I think they did it in the Civil War too. JP Morgan likes monopolies. He doesn't like competition. He obviously can't compete. He's not a good businessman at all if he needs monopolies, right? He runs the Fed, which is a monopoly. The government should never be printing dollars. Now, the Fed's really not the government. There shouldn't be a central bank where they're the ones doing the money. That should never happen. Anyway, that's the problem. And we see it, but we know what BRICS knows. BRICS knows that gold will save them because it's always been the number one guy has been gold, right? Spain, and then it went to Amsterdam, and then it went to France for 150 years on gold, and then it went to England, and now it's the U.S., and everybody's went to gold to become the number one. And then when you get off of it, you go bye-bye. So we're going bye-bye because we don't have gold. And the only thing that's going to save us is to get back on the gold standard, free taxes, or low taxes and free trade. We know the answer, but they won't do it because they're too fucked up. They think, oh no, we're fine. No, we can. The Fed can, we'll raise interest rates to 6,000%. Somehow that'll help us. And you just can't print all that money. That's the inflation. Print, and it ends the same way every time. And that's basically what we have. So the gold, as soon as we get the comex out of it. Now, we don't really know. The comex is based on derivatives and algorithms that's what I was thinking of. Algorithms that they're just, all these downs are algorithms putting in a sell order and it goes to the next buy. But nobody's buying at these prices. They're all buying much higher. So again, it's all bullshit. It's not real. And we're confident that the dollar's going out because they're printing it. And that's what happens every time. So we're using history as a lesson. We know they're printing. We know it's going to be worthless. And that's where we go. The Yankees was a good bet today. Okay, sounds good. Okay, you preached the good word of gold. Well, I'm just showing you what happens in history since the Roman Empire. So don't even take my word for it. You take. I'm proving it by you can see what's happened in history. You can see what caused World War One, World War Two, the Depression, Civil War, everything. You can see it, and yet they ignore it. The Constitution. Why aren't we following it? It's all the money has to be gold. Why aren't we following it? And that's it's I'm teaching you safety, right? The paper never survives if it's fiat because it's just printed by a monopoly, and we know monopolies are bad. So if the monopoly is printing the dollar, there's trouble. And if they're not using gold, there's trouble. But we see the light at the end of the tunnel is BRICS coming out with the gold backed currency. And we see that happening. They're smart enough to understand, hell, if we just have gold backed currency, we'll be fine. So they're doing the gold backed currency, which encourages me to buy gold because I see if they're going to be buying more and more gold, price of the gold has to go up. And then you get these derivatives by the algorithms, and you're going, what the fuck happened? But it's not people selling, it's all the algorithms. So, I mean, that's what as long as you understand that now, how long can the algorithms go on? What's going on with the algorithms? And that's really the key. And I'm trying to figure that out. It's very vague. It just says it's based on supply and demand of the paper gold, of the derivatives. If people buy it, I think there's little 50-day moving averages or something that move it. I can't really find a good explanation for it, but I know most of it is the Chinese want to buy it cheap, and the Indians and the Russians want to buy it cheap, and the Saudis. So JP Morgan, who works for them, does the derivatives, and now I can buy gold at 23.40, where yesterday was 24.20. So I can buy gold at $100 cheaper because I'm buying tons of it. I'm going to buy 1,000 tons of gold. So if I can save $100 an ounce, I'm saving a fortune. So that's really what's happening. Is they're the ones saving it, and that's why it's being shorted. It's being price reduction so people can buy it, which I always thought, and I always thought it was the Chinese because they got 60,000 tons, not 2,000. I hate when they say the 2,000 tons. What the fuck are you talking about? Well, your central bank. Well, fuck the central bank. I don't care about the central bank. I care about all the banks in China. It's 60,000 tons, not 2,000. And anybody that says the U.S. has 8,000 is out of their fucking minds. So it makes it very frustrating and hard to watch when they say, well, the U.S. has 8,000 tons. I go, no, we don't have any gold, except for me and you guys who have, here, I got a quarter ounce. I mean, that's how stupid it is. Anyway, so have a good day. Again, I'm kind of burnt from you get a little stressed. You want to do good. Although I've done so many interviews, the guy asked me, so what have you been doing? I says, well, with Thanksgiving and Christmas, I knew I, wasn't going to get hired. I've had a few interviews lately, and I'm just waiting to hear. And then you pop in, and I like how he says, so what have you been doing? Well, you can't lay back. I just said I'm looking for work. I want to work, and that's what it is. I don't really know what they're asking in that question. They're not really asking, am I working or not? Maybe they're asking, how rich are you? That do you need to work or not? If I didn't need to work, I wouldn't take the phone call. Not interested. I got enough. So again, and it's frustrating because we're waiting for gold to go up so I can retire properly, but then it starts going to 24.40 and then back down $100, which is ridiculous. And so I got a feeling that at this point it'll start being bought, and we'll get back to that 24. That's what I'm saying. We got to get into the 25s to get rid of the 23s. So you figure $100. It's not a pullback. It's not profit taking. It's algorithm trading, so somebody can buy it cheap. And it's just offensive to hear these guys not know this. Like you want to be an expert on YouTube and you don't fucking know this stuff? Are you this stupid? So it really bothers me when half these guys don't say it or don't think it. I don't know. Anyway, that's about it. So good luck if you're betting the baseball, the basketball. Um, Tomorrow I should be on. I don't know. I got to stop at the grocery store on the way home today. I wanted to make sloppy joes, and there's the package, and I couldn't. Target doesn't carry them anymore. How the fuck does Target not carry them? I had to buy the Meyer brand, but I don't like the Meyer brand. I prefer McCormick, so I will go to Walmart's after swim, and it's pretty close to that, and Kroger's is there. So between those two, hopefully they'll have a fucking pack of McCormick sloppy Joe mix. I mean, how the fuck do you not carry that anymore? So anyway, I got to be careful. Last time I got tomato sauce, and it was a bigger can, and so I poured the cans in and the water, the cup and a quarter a pound, and even after the night, it still had like this much water in it. Like, what the fuck? Well, I put with the tomato sauce and the water, too much water in it. Normally, you put tomato paste, 6 ounces, and the water, but the paste isn't as runny. So, therefore, it was fine. So, that's kind of what I did. So, I got to be careful. I got the paste yesterday. So, now it's just hopefully in McCormick's like I said, I can start at Kroger's and then go to Walmart if they don't. But I need chocolate at Walmart anyway. My dark chocolate bars are much cheaper at Walmart. Anyway, so that's about it. So enjoy your day. It's like 90 degrees here. I'm in my dress shirt for the interview. I start sweating and anyway. So have a good night and take care. And I will talk to you tomorrow, and we can go through the depression in World War II tomorrow. But it's fun because it's interesting to understand, and it always goes back to gold. I mean, it's just amazing how well they got off the gold standard, and all these terrible things happen, and then now they got back on so World War I, the Depression, World War II, we're off the gold standard, and then as soon as World War II is over, we're back on the gold standard. So I guess the industrial complex made enough money on the two wars to be able to not. But this whole going to war, why is it? What the fuck is the point of it? Is so stiff. Now we're in Ukraine and Israel. What is the point? And we're not even at war in Ukraine. We're just sending Ukraine to go get killed by the Russians. We're paying Zelensky, he gets all his people killed, and he pockets the money. What kind of world are we living in? And I thought the Joker was banned. All right, let me get that. Take care.